Welcome to the Ambitious Broker Podcast, where elite real estate professionals share their secrets to success, discuss topics impacting their industry, and gain professional development insights. Enjoy today's episode.
When I was around 10 years old, called What Color is Your Parachute? Because it was about career choices.
Oh.
And again, at the time, I didn't think that was kind of weird. Now I think that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But my father said to me, pick one thing and do it well. So my little 10-year-old brain started thinking, okay, I have to find one thing that I can do well.
Right.
So in that sense, my father taught me by example, not by a heavy hand or anything.
That's really great advice, though. And it didn't feel like that coming out of his mouth, probably. He was just sort of like on autopilot.
Well, no, he actually comes up with insightful things. And when you know how when someone tells you something and it sticks in your brain and it makes you stop and you're not quite sure why, but you're like, ooh, that's important. Yeah. And then it comes back to you over
later
time. Yes. So my father has
some voice in the back of your head is going, you haven't been paying attention, but now's this moment. Do it for just a moment.
That sentence.
Yeah, that one
thing
sentence.
That someone says it's a zinger, and you're like, this applies to me. This is important to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure why, but and it sticks. I had a lot of questions. I'm a very inquisitive person by nature.
Right.
And if I want to know something, I will ask question after question after question until you tell me to stop.
Right.
And so I went to these 4 guys who all sat in the same quadrant, and I said, listen, I have some questions. My mentors are out of town. Do you mind if I ask you?
Right.
They were like, oh, sure, ask us, right? What are they going to say? No, don't ask us.
Right.
But they had no idea
that
I
you wouldn't
was going
stop.
to be like on them, right? So literally it would get to the point where I would walk over to them and they'd all pick up their phone.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was no email where I could email them. It was
right.
I had to go ask.
Right.
So, but they were very helpful, and I just looked everywhere I could, and if I asked that person and they wouldn't help me, I'd go to the next person. I'd go to the next person,
right.
until I figured it out.
So what did you figure out? Go ahead.
So there was one story where there was a gentleman who he did very well, and he was a Friday evening, and I forget why, but he needed a ride to LAX, and he was asking everybody in the office. Everybody had plans, and I said, "I'll take you to LAX, but I want you to take an hour with me and show me what you do on your listing presentation." He said, deal, done. And he had a master listing presentation. And so I really learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
And it was simply a barter, right? I'll give you a ride.
Right.
I'll be your Uber. There was no Uber. And just spend time with me and show me how the heck to drive this car.
Right.
And he did.
Were you around? Was Dick Farrell still around when you were here? Well, Dick Farrell was that guy for me.
Okay.
He was that guy for me.
No, it's effective. And also, what I found was real effective with door knocking is they'd say, we're never moving. I'd say, that's great. Just keep me in mind if you know of anybody who is. And so the area that I was assigned, because it was protected farms, didn't turn over. And that's why it was the only area open.
Nobody took, yeah.
And when they gave me the farm, they're like, I said, well, do I have any choice? And they said, well, they had the map on the wall, this big of the whole valley. And there's just one area. And they said, well, you could go outside the area. And I said, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I didn't have the wherewithal to think, I'll just go to a different company that has an area open, because I didn't get it. I didn't understand it.
Right.
So they said, well, there's that one area. And it had been open because a woman had it tied up who was 102 and she was retiring, and there was no business out of it.
Right.
So, but I said, well, how do I know if it's good? They said, oh, you have to analyze it. How do I analyze it? I don't know how to analyze it. So again, I just said, okay, I followed the rules, right? Door knock it, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 to 12, follow up. And I didn't sell a lot of homes in there because it doesn't turn over. Still to this day, it's not a high turnover farm. But a lot of people referred me business. So I got business out of it. Because they're like, one time I got a lead because I was door knocking in the rain. And the guy was so impressed, he called me, and I don't even remember that, but he said to me, my sister's going to sell her house, and you were door knocking in the rain, so I know you're willing to work. And I was like, okay, probably.
Well, that's so funny. It's so true. And I was the same way. I would door knock in 110 degrees with full suit.
If it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 to 12, I was there. It didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter the rain.
So people would say to me,
discipline.
It was exactly. It was exactly that steadiness, that consistent. But I would be just perspiring in
the summer,
like a dolphin. It'd be horrible.
Yeah.
But what I discovered was being miserable and looking miserable, people became sympathetic and they would invite you in. They'd feel sorry for you. They'd invite you in, drinking water and so forth. And so it actually became, it was almost like intentional, purposeful at that point. It's just to look miserable so you can get invited. Yeah.
There you go. They feel sorry for you.
But people do see you working and so forth.
My father did say something to me when I first started selling. I said, Dad, I sold a house this week. So I moved back home at 21 so I could save money, right? And because I didn't know, they said, plan on the first year making no money and it's going to be your education. So I was like, okay, I got to set a plan, hunker down, cut my expenses, and just put all my money into creating this business.
Right.
So, and my parents were kind to let me move back home.
Sure.
So, I remember I went home and I said, Dad, I sold a house this weekend. I think I'm going to sell another one this weekend. I could feel like I found them a house and they were liking it.
Right.
And he said, don't get your hopes up. Just don't, you probably can't.
The engineer.
Yes.
The engineer
conservative.
came out.
And I was so angry at him. I was like, I'm doing this. And from then on, I didn't tell him anything.
One thing that people say about you is that you worked a lot.
I do.
Yeah. And you still do.
I do.
You still do.
Yeah. I don't know that.
How many billions do you have to have before you slow down?
I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
The money is good. And for me, like everybody has what they need to make them feel good, whatever their language is, right? They need to feel lots of love. They need attention. For me, I need to know that no matter what happens, I won't be in the poorhouse. That's just my own. And that I don't have to ask anybody for anything.
Yeah.
And that I'm okay. So that's my own thing.
Yeah. But you're way, way past that.
Yeah, but I have.
There's no poorhouse in your future.
I have.
You'd have to let me manage your. I'd have to manage your money for you to end up in the poorhouse, for God's sakes.
But it's not, and I know it sounds corny, but it is. Yes, it is about the money, but it's not just about the money. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy being good at what I do.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing a good job. I enjoy knowing that when you call me to your house, man, I can handle this for you, and I'm good at it. So step aside, let me do this. And that makes me feel good when they're like, wow, because I know how to do it.
Okay,
and I know how to do it well.
This whole team concept today, which is, it's another story I'm not real happy about because most teams aren't like your team where they're there to support you. Most teams are some sort of.
And do you know why?
Fraud.
Because I was shut down, right? Like I was, when I remember a guy came to me. So now I have people working for me administratively.
Right.
And this guy came to me and he said, Stephanie, I'm a good agent. You can't handle all of these leads. There's just not enough hours in the day. I said, You're right. He said, so let me join your team. We'll work them together. So I did that. And my broker said, you can't do that. I'm the broker. You're not the broker. You can't have a buyer's agent working for you.
Right.
And I was like, what? Okay. Well, it just seemed like the next logical progression.
Sure.
And it was, but that was before people had buyer's agents, right?
Right.
They would just refer it out. So he came to me and I was like, yeah, this makes sense. Join my team. We'll work this together. We'll grow. Nope, couldn't do it. So I had to figure out another way to make it
work. Well, what I saw was that, and what you did was right. And I think this is an important point for the ambitious brokers. And that is that if you're going to bring someone in, and start doing paperwork for you or assisting you in some way. Administratively, or whatever it is they're going to do. If you're not taking that time that you spent doing those things that this person is doing and use that time to go get more business or they're an expense then, they're not an investment.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw people do. Or they would bring assistants in without really knowing what they wanted them to do. I would see people with assistants for 6 months and still not have the relationship ironed out. You do this, I do that. It was sort of not understanding exactly what I want them to do. You sort of had a clear vision that I need more time doing that. So taking you and having you do this will let me do more of that.
Yeah.
Not give me more time.
I had a property. This was during the Occupy LA, if you remember that whole situation. Excuse me. It was a woman her house was in Sherman Oaks, and her name was Bertha. The painful ones I always remember, right? You remember their names. You remember the address. She was not a young woman, and she had just been using her home as an ATM. And she had just refinanced, sucked the money out, just didn't make the payments for 6 years. She didn't make the payments.
Wow.
So after going through everything, it finally came down to foreclosure. And because she was not a young woman, she played I've sucked all the money out of my house and haven't paid for 6 years.
Right.
But part of I promised to pay when you sign, right? It was the bank's taking advantage of an elderly woman. So
the next step, yeah.
So she's not moving. We have a sheriff's lockout. And that's where we have to go show up with the police, with the sheriffs, and our locksmith.
Right.
So it's the day of the sheriff's lockout. And I had a guy on my team that would show up for the sheriff's lockout. Sheriff knocks on the door.
Right.
If usually they're gone by that time, but the real special ones stay.
Right.
And then they have to be escorted out.
Right.
So my guy gets there with the sheriffs and the locksmith, and Fox News, Telemundo.
She called everybody.
I don't know what the other one was. Another one of the big ones are there. And Occupy LA is there. And they've got their tents in the front yard, in the backyard. And they're there. And they're picketing up and down all over the house. And poor Bertha, we're throwing her out of her house.
Right.
Now, you can't argue and say, wait a minute, she didn't pay for 6 years. Do you know who's paying for that? All of you are paying for that.
Right.
We're all paying for this.
Right.
She used the money. She ate the sandwich. She didn't pay.
Right.
And she did anyway. So I was not there, luckily, because the news lady says, Stephanie Vitaco, evil realtor.
Yeah. Throwing people out on their, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had to, and then they showed up at the office because they were looking for sensation, right? They want this big and everything. And we had to get them out of the property. So we had the preservation guy turn the sprinklers on.
And chase them all.
They did. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was one.
So let me ask you this question here. You've been around agents all these years, and so I know that we watch these people who come in the business, and we've got a lot of ambitious brokers, people who aren't icon status yet, like yourself, but certainly want to be. And we've seen agents come and go throughout these years. In fact, our industry turns about 15% a year over. So every now and then you get the feeling that you just want to grab someone by the lapels, maybe make some symbols and just slap them upside the head with the symbols and go, can you please just stop and listen for a second? So when you've gotten a person's attention like that, what is it that you're going to say to that person?
Prospect.
Shut up and listen.
Yeah, definitely that. You don't know it all. Ask people. That's what makes good business happen, is dialogue. But as far as, what is it going to take for you to be successful? In one word, it's prospecting. It is. It is just staying in touch with people, constantly being there. And I'm not talking cold call prospecting. I'm talking about any contact that you make with any lead that you have or any person that you know, that they need to know that you're in real estate and you're there to help them. And you have to have that innate quality, hopefully, and if not, you have to cultivate it in caring about what that other person is going to do in their life. Because if you do, it's going to come back and benefit, no doubt.
So it really, if that's the foundation, a lot of ways to get there, right? You farm, you have these parties and so forth. But the number's a couple thousand probably.
It probably is. It probably is.
Yeah.
And while numbers are important, it's who is out bird dogging for you. Who is out looking? And I have a listing right now that I only got.
Advocates, you're an advocate.
They literally have a bullhorn out. And when they hear that somebody's thinking of selling,
right.
I probably have 3 or 4 things going on right now.
Right. Because
people, Chris, my next door neighbor is thinking of selling. Do you mind if I give them your number? Please do.
Right.
Immediately.
Right.
And I hope to have that listing paperwork today. But it's having the people that are truly out there searching for listings for you.
Right.
And then delivering, because not only am I working for the referral, I'm working to the person that referred.
All right. So I had asked you to give me one weird, crazy story, strangest thing that ever happened in the real estate business for you.
Oh, goodness.
A client experience, something that made you laugh or something that just unusual.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to my mind, just wild crazy, is I had a listing on Chatsworth, and it wasn't selling. The couple was getting a divorce, and I truly felt bad for them. Mm-hmm. And I told them that they need to get their gardener back, and they need to paint the inside of their house. It's dirty, and the lawn is thick. And they said, we don't have money for that. So the truth is, they had paint in the garage. I brought a roller, and during the open house, it was really slow. I painted their hallway for them. And as people would come in, I put my paint away, and I would haul my lawnmower and mow their lawn.
Did it yourself?
Did it myself. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
Well, yeah, no, I think it's a great story. In fact, I know you. Do you still carry the overalls in your car?
Well, I sure do. I mean,
so that's a good story. Yeah. I mean, I've heard you.
Oh, I have a great story.
Fight with termite people because you
I know.
You put on your overalls and crawl underneath the house.
That house. Yeah. Okay, I do have a story. I want to track that one.
All right.
I was out farming about 10 years ago in Buckingham Estates, Billy Robertson's house, famous pool maker. And he has these beautiful iron gates. They're about, in my mind, they're 20 feet tall. They're probably 9 feet tall. Yeah. Gorgeous iron gates. It's 6 a.m. and usually those gates are locked for me to put my flyer. I push on the gate and it opened, and I thought, this is beautiful. I'm getting to the front door this time.
Right.
I put my flyer up, and unbeknownst to me, the gate locked behind me. And I am stuck in his courtyard at 6 a.m. I'm looking around. First of all, I want to see, are there cameras? Are they going to see?
Security, yeah.
Do you think I could climb over that? I've got my stack of stuff. Can I climb over this? I'm a little humiliated. Looking around, I look at the window, and there they are, eating their breakfast, smiling at me. I wave, and they are cracking up. And I was grateful that I wasn't humiliated having to climb over there.
That's so fun.
And about 6 years later, I listed their home and sold it. And that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Here's my advice.
Okay.
If they're not coaching with you, they got to find somebody else.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they've got to have guidance. They've got to have goals. They've got to have accountability.
Right.
I mean, Mike has taught me so much. And if anybody has any questions and they reach out to you, they can reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk to them.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, just to have someone to bounce ideas off of, even if at minimum. Well, let me tell you why I'm doing this.
Okay.
Show. This is not a show that's designed to be some kind of a moneymaker or anything of that nature at all, or to break any kind of viewing records. When I first started, I met a guy who, and I've told the story on some of the other shows, I met a guy who I just hooked up with. He worked at a different company, and I was door knocking. His name kept coming up, and I called the guy up and I said, I got to talk to you, man, because I'm meeting people and everyone's talking about you, and I got to know what you know that I need to know. And I called the guy up, and he was a superstar, a well-known person in the industry. And the guy was gracious as hell. He just took time with me. We did lunch, and then we actually became friends. And over time, probably in real estate, the most influential person for me personally.
Oh, wow.
At least in terms of my sales career. Mm-hmm. And so, I think back at how many times we had a chance to talk to people like that. Or like you. You're a busy guy. And by the way, thank you very much. I know you're busy, man. And to come in and to share with it, is special. And we appreciate it. I hope that there'll be people who will dial in and get to have a chance to at least have, a long lunch with you today, basically. Mm-hmm. So my whole idea is to say, is to get mindset out to people as much as anything. We're not going to teach in an hour or an hour and change how to close and how to give listing presentations, but we can talk about the personal makeup, what it is that makes something, special. And I want to be kind of transparent with everyone. I've known you since the day you started in real estate.
You were my first broker.
And so we've known each other for a long time. And while we've not been social friends per se, I've always watched you from afar. And after I sold my company, paced you very closely. And I'm very proud of what you've done as just a business person.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Ambitious Broker Podcast, where elite real estate professionals share their secrets to success, discuss topics impacting their industry, and gain professional development insights. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please rate it and leave a review.